If you do it once, it's a fluke. If you do it twice, maybe it's a good luck, maybe you're just lucky. If you do it 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, that's a pattern. If you do it every time, that's a habit. I want to know, are you in the habit of good leadership? How will you even know if you led well? That's what we're going to talk about in this episode of Leading Leaders. Stay tuned.
He has spoken on the topics faith, family and freedom in Cuba, Belgium, Brazil, Congo, UK and all over the USA to crowds from 14 to 40,000. International leadership speaker, trainer and coach. Author of Learn to Raw Leadership, Attitude Hack, Live a More Excellent Life, 5 Battle Strategies of a Victorious Warrior. 2021 President's Lifetime Achievement Award recipient. Founding partner of the John Maxwell team. Toastmaster International Speech Competition semi-finalist. Founder of Tell It Like It Is TV, ThatGuyRocks.com and ThatGuySpeaks.com. Creator of Story Power TV, Transforming Grace TV, and Leading Leaders podcast. Producer of 4 TV programs and podcasts for Liftable TV and World Trumpet Television as well as multiple social media channels. Please help me welcome J Loren Norris.
Subscribe now for access to our extensive media library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom. Begin your personal growth plan at StoryPowerAcademy.com for leadership development and communication skills training.
There is a retreat coming up that I want you to know about. It's called the Story Power Academy Retreat. This Story Power Retreat is about focusing on your communication skills, taking them to the next level. Discover, develop, draft, deploy, and deliver some of the best stories you've ever learned. You're going to listen, create, connect, relax, and reflect around this beautiful lake scene in Granbury, Texas. It's a chance to rejuvenate and refresh and start over with some of the best training you can possibly imagine around storytelling, leadership, and communication. Join us, get away, and relax. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast. I have a small confession to make. I've lost my son in a public place, not once, but twice. Yep, I did. The first time, we were walking through the mall at Christmas, a very large mall. It's one of those like a 1.5 mile circle to walk around the inside of the mall, maybe further than that. And as we walked through the mall at Christmas time, cram-packed with people, this was before the big C event that shut down malls and public places, people shoulder to shoulder, elbow to elbow. We were all holding hands like a little train of elephants. And at one point I realized there's no hand on that finger. Nobody's holding on. And so the rest of the family goes on a little bit, and I stop right where I'm at, and I look back, and there he is, eyes pressed to the glass, face just lit up, staring at these high-top sneakers covered in flames. He was captured. I stood there, arms crossed, watched for a couple of minutes, and then he looks around and realizes, I'm not holding Dad's hand anymore. In fact, I don't even see my dad. And so he turns around and softly says, I'm lost. Nobody says anything. The bustle of the crowd, they're just moving on without him. He sees a young man in uniform that works at the Levi's store. He runs over, looks up at the kid, says, I'm lost. The kid looks at him and then turns around and walks back into the store. In fact, makes his way all the way through the store back to the cash register. My son beats him to the register, climbs up on the counter, looks over the counter at him. I'm watching all this through the window. He says, I'm lost. And the kid just looks at him like, I don't know what you want me to do about it. My son very sadly makes his way back to the mall, to the big walkway where all the people are, and nobody's paying any attention to him. He lays down on the floor, his giant 3-year-old self, and he starts rolling back and forth like a log roll. He's just rolling in the floor. People are stepping over him. People are looking at him like, whose kid is this? I mean, who lets their kid behave this way? And then finally, an old man sitting on the bench the whole time looks at the kid. He's been looking at me, watching him the whole time. And finally, he points to me and the kid, and he's like, is this one yours? And I just kind of said, yeah. After a minute, the kid realized the old man was watching him. He pops up and he goes, I'm lost. And the old man just smiles and points at me. And my son ran back to me, grabbed my legs, looked up at me and said, Dad, I was lost. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, what in the world does that have to do with the leadership issue? And what does it have to do with how will I know if I led well? Let me give you a little Grant Cardoneism. He says, best known beats best every time. In fact, in a new course that we're studying right now, it was a shocker to me. I'm waiting to see just how right it is, but he said, if you're focused on process right now and you're not making over $1 million a year in your business, you're doing it wrong. And I went, what? He said, no, it's got to be promotion first, then profit, then process, then people. Meaning that's when you hire. After you've got your promotion down and your profit down and your process down, then you can worry about hiring people. Don't hire a bunch of people when you don't know how to make a profit. Don't hire a bunch of people when you don't know how to run the process. Okay, I mean, that's not what I've heard anywhere else, but hard to argue with a billionaire. So we'll give it a go and see what happens. But you know what his number one most famous phrase is? Best known beats best every time. What does he mean by that? You got to get attention. If you don't get somebody's attention, you're never going to get help. If you don't get somebody's attention, you're never going to get to give help. Giving help, providing services and products, that's how you run a business. If you're not helping somebody else, you're never going to make a profit or get a paycheck. I mean, even if you work on a salary for someone else, even if you work a paid by the hour kind of job, if you're not helping somebody else, if you're not improving the quality of your life, of their life, you're not going to get paid. There's no money in not helping. I want you to think through that a little bit and realize how many people feel entitled to get income when they provide no service or product to the world. So what does that have to do with the 3-year-old rolling around on the floor at the mall? He had the first principle right. Get attention. Get noticed. Whatever you do, get people to look and go, woohoo! Now, I don't mean you got to be a clown on a unicycle. There are plenty of clowns. Plenty of clowns on unicycles. But you do have to get attention if you're going to get help. And you have to get attention if you're going to be providing help, product or service. If you don't get attention, what good is it? You could be the very best in the world at what you do and be the best kept secret too. That's no good. So what did I learn from watching my son roll around on the floor? Look, he tested his market. At 3, he was ahead of many, many people. He first tried to get the attention of the people right around him by simply saying, I'm lost, and no one cared. Then he picked an individual, a demographic, a very specific one person. He approached that one person and said, I'm lost. They couldn't help him. They didn't have what he needed. Then he refused to take no for an answer from that one individual who obviously was not competent to provide him the resources he needed at that point. Now, many people wouldn't follow the wisdom of a 3-year-old right there. Because the next thing he did was try again. Try a different audience. Try a different target. Find another individual. He took it to the next level. If whispering I'm lost doesn't do it, get in the way of them. He became a human speed bump in order to get the attention necessary to take it to the next level. Now, fortunate for him, and I would say for anybody in business, there's a mentor somewhere watching. There's someone watching out for you, someone who cares about you. Maybe it's an investor who's put a little money in. Maybe it's somebody who's standing on the wayside because they care about you personally and individually, and they're willing to invest in you. Maybe it's just somebody who's looking idly by going, well, when they get this right, that's going to be a great place to make my investment, to put a little money down. But there's always somebody watching you either closely or from a distance. And when you realize that you can connect getting attention with that person, then you can get help. So he tested the market again. He laid down. He made himself a human speed bump. He made the world take notice of his presence. And when the old man noticed him, the old man made the connection between me watching out for him and him in a crisis. And that connection took things to the next level. Are you getting the attention of someone who can either help you or at least point you in the way of help? If you're not doing that, you're not growing. And if you're a leader who's not helping your people do that, you're not leading well. Recently on Shark Tank, I watched an older gentleman bring his son onto Shark Tank. They were presenting their product, the whole 9 yards, and when the sharks began to ask their questions, they asked questions like, well, how much money have you put into this? How much backing do you have? How long do you think you could run the business if nobody steps in? If we don't buy into your business, what do you think that you have? And the gentleman answered very wisely. He said, look, I've put in about $600,000 of my own money. I'm capitally healed just fine. I could run this business. I can hand it off to my son. It's got enough capital to run it into the ground and take 10 years to do it and be okay. But that's not why I'm here. And the sharks were like, look, if you got the money, you got the experience, you've launched 10 other companies successfully, you got $300 million in the bank to run what would you need us for? And he said probably the most wise thing I've heard in a long time. He looked the sharks right in the face and he said, look, my son doesn't need the money to run this business. We got that. He doesn't need the business up and running. We got that. But the one thing I can't get back and the one thing I can't give him at this point in my life is another 25 years of experience. I'm not sure I got 25 years left in me. He was in his 70s. He said, look, I've set him up every way that I can, but I need to know that somebody who's young and vigorous and who has done this well can walk with him through this process to keep him on the right track. Those were probably the wisest words from a father looking at his son that I've ever heard. His willingness to look at his business position, at his opportunity, at the opportunity he was handing off to his legacy, and say, I've set him up with everything that I can do, but I know my limits. That was powerful. That was powerful. Am I leading well? Am I taking others to the next level? Am I pushing them up? Because at the point that I realize that their life is not getting better, that my leading means I'm getting me promoted, I'm getting me new jobs, I'm getting me new opportunities, I'm putting more money in my bank account. If that's all I'm doing as a leader, it's time to quit. If I'm not lifting people up to the next level, if I'm not making the quality of their life better, if I'm not helping them make better decisions, have choice convictions, make sure that every option is opportune, not just the lesser of two evils. If I'm not doing that for the people that I'm leading, then what have I accomplished? There's nothing more invigorating for me as a leader than when I have someone send me just the quickest little text message. A review on Google is nice. It's nice when the public can see these as well. But I get just as much out of it when somebody comments on a Facebook post and says, I did that training and it changed my life. I was involved in that. I've got screenshots somewhere of books that were written in the Congo in 2017, 2018 by young men that I encountered when I was in the Congo in 15 and 17. And they said, my life was changed by reading that book and meeting him. That's what I want. I want to leave this world knowing that I've made an impact in other people's lives, that their lives are better because I was in their lives. And you know what the best demonstration is that you're leading well? At least in my opinion. We have the 4 M's. John Maxwell and Brandon Dawson both talk about them. You got to model it. They've got to mimic it. They've got to demonstrate that they've mastered it. And then that principle, that concept, that philosophy gets multiplied. The second time I lost my son, I remember looking around for him, and we backtracked. We went through all the places that we thought we might have lost him. We looked into the exhibits that we'd been through. We tried to find him everywhere that we could. The challenge was he was supposed to go to work with me that day. It was an evening job, and we're running out of time. And I'm like, I've got to be an hour away from this spot in an hour and 20 minutes. That means I got 20 minutes to put my eyes on him and get his backside in the truck with me. And that 20 minutes was fading very fast. And so finally we went to the front. We were at the zoo. At the zoo. Do you know how many people are at the zoo on spring break? Yeah, we were at the zoo on spring break. And I lost my son. Same son, second time. So I go to the front gate and they said, do we need to do a code Adam? Do you think maybe somebody abducted him and they're going to try to leave the park with him? And I realized what I had said to them was, I've lost my son. This had happened before when he was 3 years old, but he's not 3 anymore. They're like, well, is he old enough to have a cell phone? And I said, yeah, he has his own cell phone. He's like 15 years old. And they're like, oh, well, do you think somebody tried to abduct him? I said, he's 15 years old. He's a football player. He's an offensive lineman. Nobody's going to tuck him under their arm and carry him out against his will, I promise you. I'm barely getting him to do what I want him to do. So we were a little bit panicked that he was lost, that we couldn't find him, that it really wasn't worth shutting down the zoo and going to a code Adam. I didn't think anybody had tried to abduct him. I just didn't know where he was or where he might be hiding, and his cell phone was dead, so I couldn't call him. Well, finally he turns up just in the nick of time to get in the car, and I'm like, dude, where have you been? Your sisters have been looking for you. Your brother's been looking for you. Your mother and I have been looking for you. We haven't been able to find you anywhere. And he said, I got stuck. Ready for this? Doing what you taught me to do. What? You've been lost because you were doing what I taught you to do? What is it you thought I taught you to do that would lead you to be lost for that period of time? He said, Dad, at the penguin exhibit, when you open the door for someone else, the only way to not stand in the doorway is to turn all the way around and stand behind the door. Unfortunately, at that point, it creates a triangle. And I was stuck behind the door because I opened the door for a lady with the stroller. And over the next 45 minutes, it was nothing but a parade of strollers. I couldn't close the door far enough to get myself out from behind it. I was stuck doing what you taught me to do. I want to ask you as a leader, have you instilled in others the principles that you hold of high value enough that they're still living out those principles today? In fact, recently, the same son, now a father, he and his girl got into a bit of an argument recently. She said, why is it you got home so late from work tonight? Because he usually gets off at 10:30 and he didn't get home till almost midnight. She's like, you work 8 miles from here. What gives? He said, just as we closed down the store and walked out the door, a guy rolled up and he was having trouble with his car. And immediately I recognized what the trouble was. I knew I had the tools and the know-how to fix it, and so I did. And I said, so what's the issue? He said, she doesn't understand why I wasn't home and in bed, but I was just doing what you taught me to do. If you can help, do. Now, I got to be honest and tell you, that's a full circle. That comes all the way back around, because sometimes you take time away from people who demand your time because you can help those that can't help themselves. In my opinion, that's a greater form of leadership. In my opinion, that's a great application of leadership. In my opinion, that's demonstrating that you have learned the principles that matter. I once went to a job interview late because I stopped on the side of the road to help someone else do what they couldn't do themselves. If I had not got that job because of that, I would have been okay with that. In fact, I told them that in the interview. This is why I was late. And if that's not the kind of person you want to hire, this is not the kind of place I want to work. Once you've established your principles, you know what they are, and you're demonstrating those to the people that you lead, be persistent in that. Be consistent in that. Stay with it. Keep doing it. Now, I'm gonna tell you, you've got to know how to promote people who have been on your team, who have followed what you're doing, who have adopted those principles, who are living them out. Not once, that's a fluke. Not twice, that could be good luck or lucky good. Not 3 times, because that's a pattern, but make it a habit. When they always have a habit of demonstrating the principles that you've taught them, when they do it when no one's looking and they do it when everyone's looking, now you know your leadership is deeply impacting them. And those are the kind of people that you want to promote. You want to promote people who have accountability, competence, and integrity. If that's what you're seeing demonstrated because that's what you've demonstrated in front of you, model, mimic, master, multiply. Then what's going to happen is as they continue to do those things within your environment, you're going to see them raise up a new level of leader, a new generation of leader. If your capacity continues to grow, if your ability to lead, to influence continues to grow, if the capacity that you have to bring them along with you continues to grow, so will the people you lead. They will continue to grow. And as you grow you, and as you grow them, you're going to grow the next generation as well. That's what you're obligated to do. And when you reach the place where the influence you have over the people in your immediate sphere ceases, do something else. When they no longer want to mimic what you've modeled, you're no longer leading. Maybe you still have the title, you still have the job, but at that point it's time to kind of move on to something else. Now, if you got something out of this lesson today, I want you to know this is one of 10 lessons. March 28th, right here in the studio from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's a day commitment. It's a Saturday. You don't have to take a day off work unless you work Saturdays. We're going to have 15 seats. There's only going to be 2 ways to get those seats. Either you have a golden ticket because somebody bought one for you, or you pay $97 to be in the room. It's going to be 15 people in the room, tight teaching. We're going to walk through all 10 key areas of leadership development. And if that's something that fascinates you, if you've enjoyed this lesson, this is the kind of lesson you're going to get for the entire day, Saturday, March 28th. Send me a DM. Tell me, hey, I want to be in that room. I need to bring 3 people from my team. We will give up our entire Saturday. Send me an invoice. I'm telling you, you're going to get some good stuff out of this. It's going to be some good discussion and some good teaching. You should make a commitment to it if you can get to Granbury in the studio and be live. There will not be an online version of it until the $2,000 course is available on the website at storypoweracademy.com. That's going to be a little bit. But if this lesson touched you, if you're asking the question, am I leading well? How would I know? You need to spend a little more time on this. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.
For access to our extensive media library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom. Begin your personal growth plan at storypoweracademy.com for leadership development and communication skills training. Subscribe now for access to our extensive media library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom. Begin your personal growth plan at storypoweracademy.com for leadership development.